All right. Tuesday night. Another wild week in the world of real estate. And we got some movement. I am super excited about the fact that things might be on the trajectory for the positive for these poor buyers. We had the interest rates are sliding a little bit. I'm talking to some agents across the country, and they're seeing more inventory. Of course, it's not all roses. Of course, it's not. But pockets, hey, we'll take it. So we're going to hit on that today. We're answering your questions as we go. I'm sure there's still a lot of questions about all this commission stuff that's happening and confusion and all that kind of stuff. But the one thing that I can guarantee is that we're going to have a good time. And especially right now, as the kids are going back to school. I got one thing to say about that. Let's go. My kid goes back high schooler tomorrow, so hallelujah. But you guys know that I like to have fun on this live stream. I like to bring you guys value. Hey, Beth, how's it going? Welcome. Glad you're here. But having two instead of one for conversation purposes adds value to you guys. It adds perspective and all the things. But I got a special guest today. And because I have a special guest, I have a special introduction. So I'm going to roll this out and have a little fun here. Bear with me because, I am the geek that I am. So let's rock and roll in this thing. Rumor has it, in the dark, desolate, hot plains of a place called Southern California, there is a man who is the champion of first-time home buyers, a man that fights for justice in all things that are fair, a man like no other, a man with a voice but a face unknown. That man is none other than Mr. David Sardoni. Oh no!
I'm here. See, the problem is
there we go.
Yeah, my superpowers.
Holy jeez, did I just screw that up?
Yeah, no. My superpowers ruined the. I do that. I mess with bandwidth.
I think it was on me. I tried to click you to add you to the stage, but nothing happened. So this is what happens when you're a big dork like this chick. Who knows what's going to happen? But it's all good. How you doing, man? And I think I even said your last name is Sardoni. It's not Sardoni like sardine. It's
Sedoni.
Sedoni.
Like no baloney. That's the easiest.
No baloney, Sedoni.
That's how I won my 6th grade election. Vote for Sedoni. He's no phony. That's no baloney. So.
Oh man. Well, I'm super excited. So those watching, Mr. David Sardoni is in the faraway land that is known as Southern California, has the #1 how to buy a home podcast on the planet, according to me. And that's no joke, millions of downloads. And I mean, that is an all fun aside. You are like the champion of first-time home buyers. I mean, you teach, you guide, you stand up for these first-time home buyers that don't know what they're doing. They don't know the process. They're unprotected. They're easily taken advantage of by the wrong people, the wrong agent, the wrong lender. And you just kind of swoop in and say, don't worry, I'm just listen to me. I'm going to guide you. You provide tons of value and all the things. And that's why I'm excited to have you on the live stream, because I think a lot of people, a lot of my viewers talk a lot, obviously home selling channel, but home sellers are also home buyers. And there's a lot that are watching that are just, they just want to know, from a different perspective. So I'm so excited that you're here. So, hey, we got Iron. Hey, Ironwood Workman, good to see you as always, man. I am not sure if it's a buyer's market. It is definitely not a buyer's market. We're not there. We're maybe a little bit more balanced. Sure, in some locations, maybe for people that have the money, but I will listen very carefully. Hello. Oh, okay, we got double. See, you know what? That comment was double, so maybe it wasn't me messing up on the old clickaroo.
Yep, could have been the technology. Well, I'll jump in right away and say, Iron
Yeah,
Man,
please do.
Workman, Iron Man. By the way, yeah, now he makes my intro look to shame with an actual name like that.
Right.
I've been helping first-time home buyers for 18 years. Usually people help first-time home buyers for 18 weeks and then they go, this job sucks, and then they quit real estate. That's why Jen's doing what she's doing, because 90% of the people out there suck because the bar is too low to become a realtor. It's ridiculous. So
100%.
you have to find the 10%. So what the 10% would tell you is waiting for a buyer's market in today's rental economy. In other words, if you're trying to time it down to the bottom of the V, how many months are you going to spend in rent? How many years are you going to spend in rent before you pick up an asset that you put money into, and then reap the rewards of equity whenever that swing may come back around? The fact that jackasses are saying that it's a buyer's market right now are the stupidest headline grabbing idiots in the world.
Preach.
It's not a buyer's market. It sucks. It's unaffordable and it's hard. But your alternative is to pay $2,000 a month, $24,000 a year to somebody else, or figure out what I like to call a rent replacement strategy. You're not buying a home. You're not buying something off the shelf. You are replacing your rent with the smartest thing you can do.
Yeah, and Beth says, thank you, appreciate the honesty. Well, but that is why I feel like David's my brother from another mother.
Hell yeah. Oh,
because 100%, we are definitely on the same page with all, with absolutely all that mindset, because and that's why I bring up these articles. I want to read these articles. You guys can read these articles on your own. You don't need me to read them to you. This isn't kindergarten or whatever, but this, I want to, shed some light on the fact that some of the stuff, is worth listening to, but a lot of it is twisted. And a lot of it is going to be, it's attention grabbing stuff, right? 100%. So let's dig right in, right? I'm just going to dig right into this first article that was originally published on Fortune, and they key in. I'm just going to do. Let's see here. I'm just going to get this a little bit easier for people to read. So it starts on mortgage rates verge on pivotal magic number. I'm going to jump into the mortgage rates in a bit, and I want to get your 2 cents. Dave, didn't you do I thought I saw a reel or something from your train trip? You were talking about was that this weekend?
Yeah.
Just short, a little bit.
It was a couple weeks ago. It was August 1st and 2nd, Thursday and Friday. We had 2 huge events that happened in the, again, fellow dork, love you, Jen. Only people that are that insanely involved in looking at economic indicators of what's going to affect the 10-year Treasury bond. And that was me. And that happened Thursday and Friday, August 1st and 2nd, where jobs report came out that was lower than anticipated. And then the next day, inflation numbers came out better than anticipated. Because of that was that weird stock market drop we had that everyone freaked out about. On that day, the 10-year Treasury bond, which is what is tied to mortgage rates, was hanging around 4 or 5. It like plummeted to 3.6 that day. And that day we saw mortgage interest rates at 6.4, and some people were quoting 5.99.
Well, I actually saw the FHA rates today at 5.94. So and I want to get your input on that because it's obviously very subjective with the what is it? The Mortgage News Daily rates. But in any event, so this article, this was originally, like I said, by Fortune, and they say the housing world is frozen in a state of trap. This is be like I could easily do like the the housing world is frozen in a state of trapped homeowners. I mean, right? Like that totally works. Who don't want to sell and reduced affordability, partly because of high borrowing costs. But there could be a spring thaw in September that might help melt the market. And I've been hearing this, David, that the fall coming from several sources that for a number of reasons that we might see maybe not a full-on spring market in the fall, but definitely better than what we've seen up to this point. This is the magic number for mortgage rates, and given the Federal Reserve and given Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell's dovish tone on Friday, and this was posted yesterday, the 26th, lending costs are poised to drop, clearing the way for lower costs on a home. There's somewhat of a consensus. I can't talk today. That once mortgage rates dip to 6% or less, it will be irresistible to those who are biding their time. Earlier this year, Self-Made, and I remember actually highlighted this article, this video that this Barbara Corcoran did. Earlier this year, the self-made millionaire, real estate millionaire, and Shark Tank star Barbara Corcoran said 6% seems to be the magic number that will bring sideline buyers back in. Robert Refkin, co-founder and chief executive of realty giant Compass, in June said, I think 6.5% I'd feel good about, but the magic number is 5.99999. 5.99999. He continued that would be marketing magic and would tell the world that mortgage rates are at a level where they should be and grab a property. And then, I just idolize Meredith Whitney. Ugh. Then there's Meredith Whitney, also known as the Oracle of Wall Street, which, sidebar, David, she was quoted in an article by Fortune several months ago, and I mentioned this on my live stream. She said that single young males living at home with their parents were going to be one of the reasons why the market crashes.
Genius. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
You think? And so she has a lot of credibility, right? So, and that's no joke. I mean, I had to read it 4 times. I was like, what the heck? And then she says, who said this month that if mortgage rates drop below 6%, we'll see a spike in home sales. We're not there yet, but we're inching closer. The weekly average for the 30-year fixed rate came in at 6.46 yesterday. And it says that, goes on to say, early this month, rates plunged. This is what you were just talking about. Rates plunged and are now lingering just under 6.5%, which has not been enough to motivate potential home buyers. So I'm going to pause right here so we can discuss. Okay, because I'm curious to know, because home buyers. Actually, I'm going to take a quick look at the chat here, see what we got going on. Iron Woodworkman, I agree with the top 10%. Yes, need to find them or it's going to be a rough ride. Amen. 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 Beth says, question, do you think people will hold off on buying a home until after the election? Honestly, no. And I'm going to tell you why. Because historically, and I actually researched this, historically, over the last 50 years, election cycles do not significantly impact the housing market. They will be a conversation piece. They will sometimes give people a little pause, but people are going to buy because they need to buy. They are not going to move their life around because of November 5th. So historically, you would think that, oh gosh, what happens, after November 5th, there's going to be, significant impact on the market. And the reality of it is the presidential election does not significantly impact inflation, directly impact inflation, directly impact the jobs market, and directly impact mortgage rates. What say you, Mr. Sidoni, about that?
This is one of the biggest myths that I've been fighting for 2 decades now. 7 out of the last 8 elections, the housing market has actually gone up after the election. The only one time,
Mm-hmm.
2008. Don't we know what happened in 2008? For those of you not paying attention or don't know 7 out of the last 8, well, what about this side? What about that? Nope, doesn't matter. Clinton, Bush, Obama. And then and then the Trumps and the Bidens and all that, it just doesn't matter who it is. Um, it's never, policy never has enough time to take effect. What happens is people talk about it, and I've noticed it a lot more in the last 10 years than the 10 years before that, when Facebook was a baby. But
Yep.
no, and mathematically, statistically, data shows absolutely nothing. People have been pausing since October 2023 because interest rates went to 8%. And I'll add one more thing that I know about that magic number. Do you know where everyone got that magic number, Jen?
Tell me.
From the builders. When rates were at 8,
Interesting.
when rates were at 8 and 7%. Again, this is massive nerd stuff that Jen and I
I love
love,
it. I love it.
but the rest of you don't care. But here's what happened in the fourth quarter last year when you didn't care and just went 8%. I can't buy a house. Builders went, holy cannoli, I have inventory to sell. They started offering what we call buy downs. And they went, okay, rates are at 7.5. Let's give them 6.5. Nobody came. Inventory sat. Let's give them 6.25. Nobody came. Inventory sat. And then around January, February, when rates were still at mid sevens, when they went to 5.99, their inventory sold. That is where
Interesting.
that's where everybody got this data. And that was at a 7.5. And people had only had 3 months to kind of live with a 7% interest rate. Now it's been 8-10 months that people have been living with this. And
Mhm.
and so that 5.9 magic number came from actual buyers putting their cash where, real data.
Interesting.
Yep.
What have you noticed in terms of, like, because you do so much with these first time home buyers, right? And you're on the front lines, because part of what you do with you when you're helping people is you're also not just handling connecting them with a good, a great agent, but you're also, involved to a certain degree with getting them in touch with a good lender, and so you're a little bit more involved in that respect. Have you been seeing, with your feedback, have you been seeing more, um, people reaching out for referrals, more activity at all since these interest rates have slid from the sevens down to the low sixes at all? Or I'm curious to hear what you are seeing in that respect. Have you
So
seen any?
yes, the short answer is yes. The platform for me is a lot different than yours, but it has the same end message.
Yep.
Sellers they need a good agent to help them, and then you provide this a wonderful, amazing service. Buyers end up thinking, I don't know what I'm doing. I need to educate myself for a year. So I'm doing education for a long time. Now, you're going to get a lot of sellers that come to you that you're going to be one of those great 10% and advise people, hey, why are you doing this? Okay, cool. Maybe we should do a 6-month, 8-month, 9-month plan based on whatever job changes, end of the school year, all that stuff that you do when other agents are like, how quickly can I sell your home and get your commission?
Right. Right.
But I have seen I think it was last time I checked, was a 43% increase since August 1st for people that have stopped
Wow.
just listening to my free education and now going, what's next?
Yeah, that's significant. I mean, that to me, it could be, because I've also, in talking to agents across the country, when I'm connecting people with, and maybe in an area that I don't have an existing preferred, agent in that area. And so I get on the horn, and I'm vetting agents out and having these discussions. And I'm hearing a common thread across the country that more inventory, more people are putting their houses on the market. So that kind of tells me that, and I'm seeing that here in my area in South Shore, Massachusetts, so I'm seeing that, a little bit more, not tons, but a little bit more, which tells me that those interest rates might be spurring. It could be just the timing of things. Doesn't all add up to the interest rates, right? When people need to move, they need to move. But it does seem like there's definitely an increase, overall. Very good. I actually have, let's see if I can find it here. This just in. Some real estate agents have no idea what they're doing. News at 11. Well, there's always that. David. The geekiness is very, very deep with this. I am one with the geeky force. Anyways.
I've been told I'm not allowed to have a soundboard because they're afraid it was going to be too much.
I'm going to talk to JT about that. I think inflation is, yes, just as much high as interest rates are a problem for slow sales. I agree. Well, it's all interconnected, right? The jobs market, one affects the other. So,
except inflation's at 2.5% now.
True. Which is the.
I mean, I was doing a podcast the other day. It's these topics get big and they get out there, and where everyone's head is that my $20 worth of groceries, cost me $11 in the pandemic. That's because inflation went up to those crazy heights because of what the government was doing to artificially inflate the economy. And now they think it's going to go up another 11. They think it's going to go from 20 to 30 in the next 3 or 4 years. If it's 2.5%, that means next year your $20 worth of groceries is going to cost you $20.25.
Yeah, and does it actually cost that much additional to manufacture and sell and distribute?
It's almost like the same way that they talk about, this is super nerdy, but the same way that they talk about the stock market and the investors and the T-bond rate, they've already baked in what they assume are today I read an article that said that they're baked in 75 basis points for the next cut, and we're only anticipating 25 basis points. So it's almost like during inflation, the manufacturers baked in. I mean, things got more expensive after the pandemic if you are building tree houses because lumber was crazy expensive, but not everything got that expensive for that long. And now they've baked in. So they were running at a 12% profit margin, and now they're running at a 22% profit margin. And if we're only at 2.5% inflation, they don't need to keep baking in a higher and higher nerd.
Hey, David, when you buy a roll of toilet paper from a cannibal, does it cost an arm and a leg? Oh no. Did I lose you? Oh
no, I'm still here. I'm still here.
I can't hear
and
you.
I'm still listening to your rim shots.
Oh, there we go. I lost my audio for a second.
Yeah, I heard you, and I was making fun of you.
You heard that stupid joke that I couldn't resist?
Yeah, I was making fun of you the whole time. You didn't know.
Oh, that's fantastic. I heard nothing. All of a sudden my audio cut out entirely. Yay, technology. Ty says there's definitely an increase in inventory in homes sitting longer, but some sellers still trying to figure out when to put the homes on the market, especially with fall election and inauguration. Yeah, I think it's going to be. Here's the thing: I truly, truly, truly believe that if you are thinking about putting your house on the market, get in touch. This is not a ploy. This is just what I believe. This is what I believe in my gut, in my soul. You got to talk to a professional that is removed from the situation, a real estate professional that is in tune, a real estate agent, a real estate professional is going to give you honest, unbiased feedback, guidance, someone that is not emotionally attached to the outcome. In other words, that if you sell, you sell. If you don't, you don't. That they don't. It doesn't matter to a good agent. The outcome is the outcome. They will help you determine if it's the right time for you to sell, and not dependent on the fall, the election, or the inauguration. I think a lot of people have false understandings, false mindset about the fact that they need to time this. They're going to wait until after the election because they'll get more money. They're going to wait until after the inauguration because they're going to get more money. The buyers are out there now. I mean, my family moved here in December. 4 kids in tow. We closed the week of Christmas. Why? My dad got transferred. We had to move. They had to buy a house in December. Did they choose that? No. They wait for that? No. It needed to happen. And that happens all the time. I work 12 months out of the year. That never stops because there's always a need. So I think that, when it comes to, the seasonality of things, I think, aligning yourself to get some real honest feedback, is crucial because, and David, I don't know how you feel about this. I'm sure you're probably on the same page. Selling in December, selling during the off season can be a tremendous benefit. Why? Because competition is at a nil. You know how many competition, all of a sudden you come along and you put your for sale sign in the front yard and there are buyers that have been looking for a year and they're like, oh, yeah, it's not ideal, but you know what? That's the right price. That's the right location. Let's go. Especially first time home buyers. They don't have 4 kids in tow. They're just going to do the thing. So what do you think, David?
Absolutely. I think that there's so many misconceptions about the end of the year, and that has to do with normal market. And this is nothing normal. Like that comment talked about how we're seeing inventory and homes are staying on the market longer. It's not because there aren't buyers. It's not because supply and demand. It's because last year everyone freaked out and people saw the fact that homes were making more money. So they put their home on the market for too much money and they're greedy and they sit there. Every single home that I've sold this year in Southern California, and with the hundreds of realtors that I talk to all over the country, if you're priced correctly, you're multiple offers in a weekend or two. Because
I 100% agree. 100% agree. I talked to someone who reached out over the weekend and she's like, she was in my market. She said, what do you think? And I said, well, the house has been on the market for a month. And my agent told me, it's a seasonality. I said, no. I said, every house will sell if it's priced right. If it's priced right. Now, yes, there's always the exception to the rule. Yes, my house might be super unique, needle in a haystack. But most of the time, it's going to price it properly. Beth says, if inflation goes up, I can't see very many people able to purchase homes unless the builder offers great incentives. Well, the builders are offering great incentives. And here's some food for thought. Interest rates, even when interest rates spiked last year, right? They went from 0 to 60. And people were like, what is going on? Okay, things slowed, but they never stopped. They never stopped because there's always a need. People put their houses on the market. There's always a need. When, David, when you and I were working during the recession, 06, 07, 08, right? It was awful. The market changed. People still moved. Clark, the realtor, how are you? Welcome, my friend. Welcome. Good to see you. Iron Man says, LOM, I'm okay with the nerds and the geeks. Let's go. They helped me a great deal in the past. Heck, I think I'm a nerd with a framing hammer. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Good advice, Jen. Emotions are definitely worked into everything going on, and we need someone removed from that. This is the thing. And I always tell people when I'm working with them that, it is absolutely impossible for a home buyer, home seller not to be emotional. That's why we have a job. My job is to be pragmatic. My job is, I don't have skin in the game. It's not my house that's not going to sell. It's not that my house that I'm going to live in. So I can easily say, don't sell it, don't buy it if that's the thing that should happen from a pragmatic standpoint. And say, instead of you jumping in and making a decision to buy a house because you're tired of looking, or you're wrapped up in the fact that it's got a fence, even though it's next to like a dump or something, and you don't want to be next to the dump or whatever, or fear of missing out. You want to hurry up and put your house on the market because you're afraid the prices are going to drop because everybody on YouTube is telling you there's a crash. If I tell you, no, I don't believe that to be so. I think you should wait. It's in your best interest. Put a pin in it. Once you put in a 3-6, doesn't make a difference to me. My mindset, and yes, I have to put food on the table. I like to have food with my meals. It's a nice thing to have, right? Like this, we're not doing this out of, real, it's a job, it's a career. However, I know, David, that the way I've run my business is that you do the right thing and the money follows. You do the right thing by people, and you don't sell for the sake of selling and getting a paycheck. You take care of the people, and then the money will come. It's just the way, Dave, that's the way I've done it for 28 years. I've never pushed anybody in. I go to bed with a clear conscience. I've never pushed anyone into doing something that they didn't want to do for the sake of putting food on the table. I just put my head down and say, okay, everything's going to work out okay. Just do the right thing, right? And those are the types of agents, and there are those agents out there. Those are the ones you want to align yourself in. Anyways, I'm getting off my flipping TED Talk, soapbox, whatever not. Do you concur, my friend?
Absolutely. That's why I myself decided to help the first-time home buyers, because that was my niche. 12 years in, back in 2019, I saw that they were not being served correctly, and that people were telling them go, go, go. And it's not go, go, go. It's, what do you want to do for the next 10 years? Let's figure out your plan, and then let's go. Beth, I'm in Orange County, baby.
Orange County. Don't they have like
actually, I want to comment on what Beth R said. That saying that she said that she sees that if inflation goes up, builders are going to have to offer incentives. Beth R, let me start with this. Love you, appreciate that you're curious, but here's some real truth bombs. If inflation goes up, I don't see many people able to purchase homes until the builder. Okay, inflation went up 21, 22, 23, and 22 and 23 were some of the biggest years in real estate, and people bought homes. Inflation is at 2.5% right now. Inflation was 4, 5, 6, 7 at that time, and people bought homes. I also, because my podcast is for first-time home buyers, everyone tells me that I'm a snake oil salesman and I'm trying to get people to buy because that's all realtors want to do. But back to Jen's TED Talk, that's why we're brothers from another mother. That's the way that I'm just trying to educate as many people as I can, that they can make the decision as much as they want. Do you know how many people went out on my social media and commented when rates were at 4%? Well, when interest rates get to 5%, no one's going to buy a home. The market's going to crash. I would say, no, it's not. It's because of low inventory. If you'd like, I can tell you in 5 minutes about low inventory and explain why it's not going to crash. Then when rates went to 5, they said, but when rates get to 6, then when rates got to 7, they said, yeah, but if rates hit 8, the market's going to crash. And finally, after saying the same thing over and over again, because they were doing it on emotion, at 8, they were this much right. The market didn't crash. It didn't crash like they said it would. They thought 8 was going to be 2008 all over again if we hit 8%. Crazy 8s. But it didn't. It just slowed down. So the emotional impact of these headlines, the fact that, like that headline that you showed, Jen, The
Yep.
fact that they're even saying there's a magic number is hysterical to me, because the 10, 20, 30-year plan of every seller and every buyer should never be dependent on that trying to make the perfect timing.
No, because if you can't afford it, you can't afford it.
Amen, sister.
It's not going to, if you have such a marginal budget that a 0.5% makes a difference, you should not be buying right now. Like it should, yes, it helps, but is it going to be like the difference between, oh, green light, go. Okay, we're going to go buy a house that we don't want. We're going to buy a house that we don't like because the interest rates are a point lower. These are the rates. Mortgage News Daily. Where do you reference your mortgage rates there, David? Do you use this website?
Yeah, I use about 5 or 6 different ones and try to find the average, or I'll call my own individual lender.
So you bring up, I'm actually a sidebar right there. I'm gonna bring up a good point on that one. These rates are a national average, right? Interest rates vary location, they vary credit, they vary program, all the above, right? So you may call your lender and your lender says 6.78. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean because you need to go to a different lender. It may just be the area that you're in, the credit, your FICO score, your credit portfolio, your down payment dictating what kind of loan that you need to go into, all of the above, right?
The biggest mistake that I see first-time homebuyers make is shopping for rates like they're trying to comparison shop on Amazon. The rate is a portion of how much money you're going to spend.
Yep.
There are, and what I love is people go to a lender and they go, well, they quoted me this and that's no good. And then, so I went here and they quoted me this. And I'm like, did they take a full application? Because the rate that you see here on every website that you go to, that's assuming you have the highest credit score and zero debt and a full 20% down payment. And your best option might be to buy with some debt rather than waiting to pay down your debt and maybe using a smaller down payment. Blah,
Yes.
blah, blah, blah. Don't shop rates, shop service.
Service and APR. APR.
Yeah, because that's where the fees get baked in, and then
yep. Yeah, because they could be including a buy down. They could be including, they could be hitting you with all types of lender fees that you don't even know that you'll be paying for in the long run. But I 100% agree. I think that the down payments, yes, the lower rate makes a difference. And yes, I'm going to sidebar on this because I think this is worth a discussion that, the concept of you're buying the payment, not the price, sounds used car salesman, right? Sounds like, it's just a line. The reality of it is a 30-year mortgage. You're not buying a $500,000 house. You're buying the payment. You're making sure that payment fits in your budget. It's like it's what do you call it? Not lease to buy. It's the lease. What do you call your program there?
The last lease ever.
Last lease ever, right? It's a replacement policy. It's not policy. It's a replacement program, right? Debt. Thank you. Debt replacement strategy. Exactly. Thank you. That's what I was thinking of. And so the reality of it is when you are, especially when you're buying your first house, it's a balance of not only the payment, but it's also reserves. I mean, going into a property that now it is yours, which means it is all yours. Furnace breaks, that's yours. Hot water breaks, plumbing, that's yours. So getting into it with reserves, that's like when I do consultations with buyers, it's the first thing I ask. I say, okay, what's your down payment? Great. How much is your reserves? I said, well, the reserves are the down payment. No. You need to have at least a couple months worth of reserves, 3 months, 6 months ideal. Dave Ramsey would tell you 6 months. That's hard. That's hard. But at least a couple months. What happens if you're sick? Can't make your mortgage payment. The last thing you want to do is skip your mortgage payment. The last thing you want to do. Live on mac and cheese if you need to, but don't skip your mortgage payment. But it's the sum of the parts. And the reality of it is a lot of people don't realize, David, that you can make large payments and have your loan reamortized. If you say you come into money, you come into a big tax return, you come into inheritance or something, you have $10,000 and you're like, you know what? I now have the money. Well, you can call your lender, most lenders, and have that loan readjusted. They charge a small fee to do that, but have it readjusted to include that down payment. Pay down so you're not paying interest over the life of the loan for that balance anymore. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
it's a straight
it's a
principle.
great, yeah, it's a straight, and then have those payments re-amortized, have those payments readjusted. You put in $10,000, $20,000, and now you can actually, over the course of your loan, re-amortize and have those payments drop, as opposed to just having something in an extra check, in the loan, to pay off your mortgage. So there's a lot of different things, but it's complicated.
Well, I think
It doesn't have to, actually, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be complicated.
Yeah.
I stopped building small houses and build large quality homes now. It's hard to make a buck. Oh man, this is so true. On new, small, and cheaper homes right now in my location. Okay, so I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to preface this by saying we do not talk politics on this channel. We don't take sides. I don't, and I'm going to be policing the chat, just giving you guys. I don't think anybody in this chat would do it, but if I see any political stuff, I'm going to see you. There is, I'm curious to hear, politics aside, there's a lot of discussion from both sides, bringing in more housing, which, to be honest, is the first sensible thing I've heard from a politician. Giving first-time home buyers more money and awarding sellers more, money. Like, that's all great, but that doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't solve the problem. We need more houses, right? We need more inventory. And there's talk of introducing, I think the Harris side said 3 million units. We don't know what units are. It could be apartments. I'm assuming single family. Trump side, I believe, is offering something similar. But what are your thoughts on that? What direction do you think? Do you have any thoughts on the actual dynamics of that working? Because I think that case in point with Ironwood Workman, that's the problem right there. It is not your fault. It is not your fault. You're trying to make a living. You make more money on the large houses, but guess what? First-time home buyers cannot afford those homes. That is the problem. That's the affordability issue. We need somehow to introduce that starter housing. We need smaller homes. Wherefore, downsizers, baby boomers downsizing, need smaller homes. So, do you think that introducing new units and loosening regulations, building regulations, local regulations, to allow for these units, do you think that that's something that's feasible to happen? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I will again also re-emphasize what you said. This has no politics. This has no politics, one side or the other. I just report math. The housing, the regulations for building housing is there for a reason, for the good of humanity. The regulations that are there for the good of humanity that stop people like iron worker man Joe to be able to make a buck, then that's stifling the good of humanity. We don't have so both sides have an idea that they're doing the best for the country, but the regulations have been a difficult thing. Now I'll separate the two. That's the regulation side, and both sides are going to argue different things. And if you want to understand, I'll just give you the facts. One side's talking about climate change and safety and the environment, and the other side is saying, don't let them, doesn't matter, just let them build and build and build. So it depends. In different states, it's the regulations have definitely been a stifling to the building. Now, the other side of things is all the stuff that you were talking about, Jen.
Mhm.
It's campaign promises, both
I
sides.
know. I know.
Both,
You know, well, there's practicality because I would say like, okay, great, we're gonna order all these things. Well, what happens like Ironwood workmen here, and they say, okay, great, we are gonna give you a building permit. Yeah, I'm still not making enough money. So where's the incentive? I
yeah,
think that's where the money needs to go. I think that's what needs to happen is they need to, yes, loosen regulations, but they need to incentivize the builders to build these starter homes. There's got to be some sort of incentive to make this type of starter housing because it is not as profitable as building something that is larger for more, the more affluent buyer. And at the end of the day, it's not about being the builders being greedy or whatnot. It's about making a living. Everybody's trying to make a living. Everybody. I got to buy groceries just like you got to buy groceries. Everybody's got trying to just do their thing, and it's gotta make sense here. Maddie B says, David, do you advise your buyers to be able to budget for large increases in homeowners insurance? Have you had buyers whose fire insurance in a year or two increases to the point they can't afford the payment? Great question. Questions.
so go back to what Jen was talking about reserves. Um, yes, I have had people that have lost their insurance. I have people that have had to stretch. I've had people that have been bummed out. If you have to pay an extra $2,000 a year to keep your house and you can't figure out over 12 months how to get $2,000, then you're probably someone who was potentially going to have to give up the house, sell the house. No one goes to foreclosure anymore because everyone in the country has equity unless you bought the last 12 months.
Yep.
That's another myth. So this is a wonderful, catchy headline. There is a lot of truth to it that it sucks. State Farm left my state.
Oh yeah, California. You guys have been ravaged with insurance companies. I did a video on it a couple weeks ago about insurance companies just being like, okay, so we can't make money. We can't. This is costing us too much money, so we're out.
And I
What the
actually,
heck?
it's very interesting. You called this the tipping point. I actually talked to an insurance guy a couple months ago who said that right in the last couple months, the insurance companies are starting to see profitability again. So we're at a tipping point where they're expecting to see some of the people start to come back in. Um,
Do you think that's because of national climate issues that maybe because there's been fewer climate events
I
that
think that's
do you think that has that would be the reason or no?
I mean, I don't
I don't s-
God, I sure we're nerds, girl, but I would never want to look at an insurance actuary books.
oh hell no.
Try to
Well, and
figure
and
out
then and
how
then
much
like
trust
you
fund do I need, you know?
yeah. Well, then also too you put your tinfoil hat on and be like, okay, so are they really gonna lower policies because there hasn't been any events? Or are they just gonna keep it the same and make more money?
No, they're just
Hmm.
they're realizing that everyone who's still held on to their home, like Maddie's question, have I seen people where they can't afford the payment? Well, if that happens, they're out of the game. And that we've had 8 months, 12 months of this. So now the insurance company comes back in and realizes they have an entire customer pool that's used to new payments.
Right.
So that's why they figured out that they can be profitable moving forward. It is, look, when I started and people were like, $200 for an HOA, no one's ever going to buy a condo. Well, every condo in Southern
Mhm.
California, the HOA is $400 now. So are is it going to break the bank? Does it suck? Yes. But it's people are going to continue. The issue has been, oh my God, are these homes uninsurable?
Yes.
that's when it's going to be a
Yes.
problem. When the houses that are near the mountains that in Malibu that seem to light on fire every 3 years, and then after the fires go, the rains happen and there's a mudslide. It's in but that's Malibu, and they're $10 million houses, and it's a write-off. But yeah, it's gonna affect and it's gonna change. But just like nobody's gonna buy a house when rates hit 6%, David, they did. And just like
Right.
no one's gonna buy a house. Now, I think some areas that are gonna get hurt are areas that aren't necessarily desirable. Florida's having some major difficulties.
Mm.
And I think
that they are on multiple levels, right? Since
because
this
people
is
don't
the
realize
Miami crash and whatnot.
yeah, Florida's 4 different states. It's luxury, it's country, it's suburbs. It's like,
Yep.
are you hearing about like people potentially just not deciding to live in hurricane areas?
So, yeah, I mean, what's interesting is that I've had quite a few viewers reach out for referrals to sell and get out of Florida. But I've also talked to the agents down there. I talked to Paul Likens, and he's on the southeast coast, and he's like, we're bonkers busy. Like, people are coming in here buying in droves. So I think that at the end of the day, people will do what they do because they want to do it. Not like it's not, buying a home, buying a vacation home. It's not a checklist. It's not a thing. Yeah, like I'm going to go to the grocery store. I'm going to buy some eggs, and oh, you know what? I'm going to in August. I'm going to go buy a house. Like, no, it's a thing that you're like, oh, someday I really want to live near the ocean, or someday I want to be I don't want to be away from snow. I'm done with snow. Or someday I want to be near my kids. I had referred someone to Florida because that's what they wanted to be. They wanted to be near their kids, and they don't that's not going to stop anybody from moving. You want to be near family. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, TL says we are wanting to buy, but waiting for election fallout and the NAR settlement mess to work out the kinks. Well, we were talking about this a little earlier about the election fallout. I think to kind of reiterate what we were kind of talking about, during that point, my advice, David, I know you're on the same page. You got to take stock in what is happening in your particular life, what is important to you with your home purchase. If there are things in your life that you say, you know what, we are just not emotionally ready. Okay, that's valid. If the elections get you all stressed out and buying a house would make you even more stressed out, then you take stock in that. You do what's right for you. But don't do it just because of the election, because not much is going to change. And as far as the NAR settlement, here's the thing, and guys, this is so important, so important. Yes, it is a mess. It is a mess because of the way it was rolled out, because 80% of the real estate agents, David, you and I are very passionate about this, and I've talked about this a lot. 80% of the real estate agents suck, to use David's language. They suck. They're uneducated. They're underinformed. Some of them have ill intentions. And that 80% are the ones that are scurrying or in a mess. And as true as I'm sitting here, and honest to God, I have talked to probably 30 agents in the last 3 weeks or more, and all over the country. And because I focus in on the top 15, 20%, I have my network I have the people I've come across in the last 20 years. I keep track of all the good people, and good people know good people. When I have conversations with them and I ask them, how are you guys handling the settlement and the changes in the commission? They're not freaked out. I'm not freaked out. I think that you have to change to be compliant, but it's not. It's so you adjust a few things to look out for the best interest of your home seller. You'll adjust a few things to look out for the best interest of your buyer, but it's not catastrophic. It's not catastrophic. If you're a buyer and you're worried about having to dig in your pocket, you need to talk to the right agent. Because I will tell you that buyer agency came into Massachusetts. I got my license in 1996. Buyer agency came in the 2000s. I was one of the first ABR. I was in the accredited buyer representation, one of those designations. Went through the courses, learned how to do it properly, and I've been negotiating with that, dealing with it in the offer since then. Yes, it's a little different, but the reality of it is a well-constructed offer, when the value is articulated to the seller and you're working with a seller, you're making an offer, 99 times out of 100, seller, you can get that fee taken care of and included in the offer. It's all about creative negotiation. It's all about good offer crafting, so it doesn't have to come out of your pocket. So all those naysayers, oh gosh, the buyers are going to have to dig in their pocket. They're never going to pay. I'm not going to pay for a buyer's agent. You don't have to do that if you have a good agent that knows how to do it. And that's the small percentage. So that's my soapbox, David. What have you got to add? I know you've got stuff that you want to say about that, because, I feel like you and I are, again, two minds, same brain.
Oh, to directly answer TL's question about waiting for the election fallout in the NAR settlement, if I will answer data with data. If you are saying that because you think there is a mathematical advantage, hi, my name's Dave, and you can punch me in the face and tell me you never want to listen to me again. I'm telling you, with 18 years of studying this 24/7, there is absolutely no mathematical data to back up the fact that the election or NAR is going to change what's going to happen with pricing, and you're not going to save any money and you're not going to get a deal. There's one thing that is going to affect the real estate market more than Trump, Harris, NAR, or anything else. And it's the fact that we're 4 to 7 million homes short of the homes that we need. We have a low inventory. It's economics 101. I could explain to you how we got here, but it's a 20-year journey. And it's there and it's on paper. And when supply and demand of economics 101 says that while the supply is still low, people still make babies, people still need places to live, the population has increased over the last 20 years, and instead of increasing homes, we've decreased to the place where we are right now. Low inventory is going to affect everything for the next 2 to 3 years of the housing market, not the election, not the NAR settlement, not, if I decide to run through Times Square naked and scream this at the top of my lungs.
Yeah, please don't do that.
Okay.
Please don't do that. Yeah, I don't think your wife would be very approving of that.
Oh, I'm not saying anybody would like it. Nobody would like it. I just think.
Oh my goodness, you were just in New York too. Good Lord.
I was. Right?
Dropping off your eldest to college.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
He's got a year in the dorm, and then next year I'm going to talk to him about how we're going to create a situation so he never has to rent a day in his life. Because I'm going to have his dumb roommates pay his mortgage for the next sophomore, junior, and senior year.
So that's what happens when you get a smart dad. There you go.
Only took me till I was 50 to figure all this crap out, but hey, here I am.
Better late than never. Maddie says, fair fire insurance can be more than the property taxes in some areas. I'm seeing some homes for sale in foothills areas. I wouldn't touch these. So what do you know about that? The fair fire insurance? Is that like, what state are we talking here? We talking in California or?
Foothills is my backyard.
That's your backyard. Okay.
This is for a long time. There's a city in Orange County, California called Yorba Linda that actually was one of the top 5 most expensive zip codes in the country because it had a lot of equestrian property. And they get killed with the brush fires every year. What happens is the builders are not building single family homes on what you would think of as the border anymore. So that land, if anyone wants to build, it's the people who can afford it, and they hire private fire companies, and those private fire companies are on speed dial, and they come over and shoot foam on their backyard when the wildfire is getting close to them. So there's all
That's crazy.
There's just so many crazy variables with the wildfires, but again, the houses in Malibu and I mean Tornado Alley. How come they've been insuring that for the last 100 years? It gets to the point where we in Southern California have not in earthquake insurance is not mandatory to purchase a home in Southern California, just like flood insurance isn't if you're in a flood area. So the insurance companies figure out ways to work around it.
Yep.
I have many buyers that agree with you, Maddie, that are like, don't show me stuff over by the fireplace. I want to be inland. I had one guy who wanted to be inland like 10 blocks. And I'm like, okay, so if the entire north part of this neighborhood burns, like I think you're okay 5 or 6 blocks in, but all right, if that happens, that means like all of Irvine just burnt to the ground.
Yep. So, you just brought up a good point that a lot of people don't realize, that if the mortgage companies are the ones that require the special insurance. So you live in a flood area, and we have I mean, we're Massachusetts, we're a coastal area. I live in a coastal town, and so there are plenty of properties that are in flood insurance, floodplains, FEMA designated flood insurance areas. But if they do not have a mortgage, they don't have to carry that flood insurance. They're not required to do that. But if you have a mortgage, the mortgage company steps in, and the mortgage company wants to protect their asset. So the mortgage company will require you to have that extra insurance, but not everybody carries that. And that's why actually when I was doing my research for the insurance video, because of these insurance policies going through the roof, a lot of homeowners, the folks there that have been there for 30 plus years, that have, boomers that don't have the outstanding mortgage, there's no outstanding debt, they own their house free and clear. A lot of them are self-insuring, which is kind of scary, which is a little bit scary, because they can't afford on a fixed income to pay the crazy insurance policies. They don't want to pay it, and they're not forced to because they don't have a mortgage on the property. So it's very interesting, that dynamic. I think a lot of people don't realize you don't have to have that mortgage. They don't have to have that insurance if you don't have a mortgage. I wanted to bring up this this article here that actually, since we were talking about builders, so I came across this article about the changes in the market, the lower rates, and how that affects, because you mentioned earlier about the builders, and the builders are doing some crazy stuff, right? They had this thing, was it D.R. Horton was offering like 8% commission to real estate agents. It's like, so what, we're going to talk somebody into buying a new construction home even though they don't want to? How am I going to be incentivized? Like, that's just, I guess the wrong type of agent will be incentivized. Home builders will have had the upper hand in the housing market. Lower rates may change that. It says home builders, and this was last week, home builders have benefited from the lack of housing supply in the existing market for years since the pandemic. To your point, David, we've been in an inventory deficit for quite. This is not a pandemic issue. We've been in a seller's market because of lack of inventory since the great financial crisis. Since the market crashed in 2008 is when builders pulled back, because they were overbuilding heading into that crash. They were building spec houses. They were over leveraged. Then when the market crashed and they got burned, a lot of them stopped building entirely. A lot of them pulled out of the market, and the ones that were remaining said, I'm only going to build one house at a time. I'm only going to build when I have a buyer that has a contract, and we're not going to do spec building. We're not going to, build to the extent. And so that's when we got in trouble with the inventory. It says the builders over the last few years have been in a hurry to build houses and to address the supply shortage in the resale market. As high borrowing costs discouraged home buyers from selling, but now inventory of both new and existing homes is finally rising and heating up some competition. Felipe Lord, CEO of Meritage Homes, says, I don't think we're going to be immune to the market as the resale market starts to return and becomes more competitive. And I have actually started to see that with viewers reaching out, looking for agent referrals, and, because they actually are living in new construction in neighborhoods that haven't been finished yet, and they're competing against other new builds. And a new construction home there's always going to be a market. It's like buying a new car. So there's always going to be a market, with as soon as the tires hit the road, the value drops. And it's kind of similar with a brand new home. When you buy a brand new home, there's always going to be an increase, in the value of the home. You're always going to pay more, always, than a pre-existing home. But if you have a pre-existing home that's only a year old, that is priced aggressively, not giving it away, but priced in line with the comparable properties in a similar neighborhood, now that new construction, that doesn't look so great anymore, because you're like, well, why should I pay like $50,000 more because it's a year older, a year newer? So it's something that the builders are dealing with. It says Meritage Homes, the nation's sixth largest home builder, reported total home orders rose 14% from the prior year to 3,799 homes, still lower than analyst predictions of 3,879. The hesitancy among buyers also pushed builders to cut prices to move inventory. This is what you were talking about. The average sale price on Meritage orders was 6% lower than a year ago due to product and geographic mix shift impacting growth, and executives noted. I wanted to Toll Brothers. I wanted to see that, just get to the part about the let's see here. Still, the recent decline in mortgage rates could ease the years-long mismatch between supply and demand that has been so advantageous for builders. The home builders think they have a value proposition, and that is positive for the consumer relative to the existing housing market. BTIG's managing director and home building analyst Carl, I say that name right? Richard? What do you think, David? Richard? Told Yahoo Finance in an interview.
I think he's wrongered. It might say right, but what he's saying is wronger.
Oh, yeah, you get jokes. I love it. They just, excuse me, they just haven't had to really lever it, because it's only been they were only, am I having a moment here? They just haven't had to really lever it because they were the only game in town. That leverage is probably what they meant to write. And now they're going to have to think about it. So it's just interesting that things are starting to shift. NAR chief economist Lawrence Huden says we're seeing a slow shift from a seller's market to a buyer's market. Lawrence, we got a long way to go before that happens. I mean, here in Plymouth, a balanced market would be around 300, 350 homes. Okay, we have 97 on the market. It's more than the 50 or the 25 at the bottom of when things were late 2020, early 2021, 25 homes on the market, So now we've got, 4 times that, 97, woohoo, big deal, or three times that, right? Still way far off than, what we need to do to flip the script. Ironwood says the big builders are building garbage in a lot of locations. Yeah, I'm hearing that. They are cutting so many corners. I will. Good for you. Good for you. One name for generations. I'm keeping it. You know what? Thank you. Thank you for doing that. Because you know what? It's because yes, you have to make a living, but you're not sacrificing for the almighty buck. 100%. 100%. Leah says, I wouldn't want a new build, would rather properly rehab an existing property. So here's the thing. And I live in a town that we have homes that are built in the 1600s. Hello. America's hometown, home of the Pilgrims, 1620. This is where we're at. And those older homes, they've stood the test of time. Yes, they need rehab. Yes, but you're talking about even in the homes that were 1900, they're not going anywhere. They've had some legs. They're not going anywhere. A new build that all of a sudden has foundation issues because they didn't pour the concrete right, or they cut corners when they mixed the concrete. You're not going to know. But if on an existing house, you would. So I don't disagree. I don't know. What do you think, David?
Oh, I completely concur that if Leah doesn't want a new build, rad. Let's go look at everything else, because
and you save yourself a ton of money.
It's taste. It's taste. It's opinion. Buying one isn't a smarter fiscal move over another. Mm-hmm. Eventually, we're going to get down to the point when you might say, I would rather overspend for this particular home because it has all these emotional bells and whistles. But your good realtor is going to tell you that. So yep. I will go back to the builder article that you were laying out there, Jen.
Yes.
What's the one reason why sellers aren't selling right now? The biggest reason why. It's because they're sitting at a 3% interest rate. The builders, mm-hmm. That article saying that the interest rates might affect the builders, it's going to gigantically affect the builders, because right now, I'm making these numbers up because these numbers don't exist. But let's say it was 2 to 1 new builds, 2 new builds to 1 resale in one particular town, which it could be. Like in your area, if there was a plot of land that someone built 100 new homes there, and there was 100 and there were only 50 resale for sale.
Yep.
There's only 50 because there's a bunch of people sitting on a 3% interest rate that don't want to buy a new home and pay 6.5 on their other place. Now, when the magic number happens, there's going to be a flood of people that have been sitting wanting to move, but they didn't want to give up the 3% interest rate. This is that big picture dorky stuff that makes today's headline the concern about the elections, concern about the seasonality. All that stuff isn't going to affect anything as much as the locked in people who aren't selling their homes, creating a low inventory, and the builders.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I know we always assume that, with the interest rates in the same breath, it's about the buyers, right? It's like one's attached to the other. Low interest rates, so people are going to buy more. And I couldn't agree with you more. It's not. That's not the catalyst. That you're going to have more people. There's already people that want to buy that can't find a home. There's no shortage of people wanting to buy a home right now. No shortage.
This is this weird time, Jen. This has never happened before. People are like, oh, well, this is the way it's going to go. Because no, we never had a global pandemic and had the government cut money, and we never had 2.66 interest rates before. This is brand new. We've never had a whole country sitting with over $300,000 worth of equity is the average equity of the average homeowner right now, sitting
Yeah,
there.
there's more equity than they've seen in 100 years. Like,
Yeah,
it's
sitting there
ridiculous.
with a 3%
Ridiculous.
interest rate. This is new.
And it's interesting to see, like, so I mean, just projecting even further out that, oh, this is going to be a something that has no end, or something that eventually will get it'll get worse and worse and worse and worse, that eventually something catastrophic is going to happen. Well, you consider this, right? If the baby boomers are sitting on trillions of dollars of equity, not to be morbid, but we all don't live forever. And that generational wealth is going to go somewhere. And as baby boomers pass, or they sell because they need to sell to go into assisted living, or because the family needs money to take care of an aging parent, right? Now that money is going to go to, that house is now going to go to potentially, a family says, we don't want this house. Now they're going to sell that house. And maybe they do pass. Maybe they take the money out. Now, not only are they introducing a piece of property on the market, now they've got money that they're going to be injecting to the economy, or maybe even buying another house themselves, vacation house, to honor their wishes. We're going to buy a second home. But I think that element is slowly, potentially going to help the situation. I think our best case scenario, David, the best case scenario is a little bit more even. But I mean, I think that you said at the very beginning, very beginning, the glimmer of hope that this video, that this live stream was started as, is the fact that if the rates come down a little bit, we have a little bit more inventory, then that could be the shoehorn that a buyer needs to get their foot in the door. And that is how you win. And not being the long-term permanent tenant. That's how you start the process of getting your foot, and not waiting for this, waiting for that, waiting for, waiting for Jen's hair to grow gray. Well, it's time to buy a house because it's already happening. Because, this is what happens, So there was somebody, look at the comments here. Thank you so much, guys, for being so active in the chat. Really appreciate you guys. Super appreciate you guys. C. Schultz says, hi, Jen. Hello. Our house is supposed to close Thursday. Woohoo! All right. We are thinking of a new build in a 55 plus community. Would you say now it's not a good time to buy then? No, I would say, I would say, you know what? I would look at what is available. I would look to see, I guess it comes back to the same question. Does that new build in that particular community, does that fit your budget? Does that meet your goals? Does that fit your lifestyle? Does it in a location that suits all of the above? Then, I mean, and of course, whenever you're talking about these communities, you look at the HOA. I did a video about this, investigating those HOAs, look and see as much information if other units have sold, try to find out, who's, with the builder always runs typically runs the HOA until the community is done, and they turn the HOA over to the residents. But try to find out as much as you can, and look at those condo docs to see how well they're set up, how well they're going to be managed. But you know what? These 55 plus communities are actually popping up they're very popular in my area. Very popular. We have a high level of retirees. You would think, like, who's going to live where there's snow? But Plymouth, where I am, close to Cape Cod, a lot of people, because they have family here, right? So I would say no. I would say it's not a good time to buy at all. I think it's you got to look at your own personal situation and to see and consider whether it's the right time. The only caveat to that on a new build, I would say, is if you plan to be in the house less than 5 years, then it might, depending, maybe even shorter, in terms of having that elevated price on a new construction and having time for that market value to catch up. Because if you turn around with your closing costs, I literally put a property under agreement today that representing the buyer, that the home seller bought this brand new construction, and then they literally were homesick and they only had it for a few, 6 months. Sold it for the exact same amount that she purchased it. It's basically brand new. But guess what? Now she's got all these closing costs. So she's losing money on it. So you got to be there long enough for it to appreciate, to exceed that. But do you have anything to add to that, David?
Oh, just the hardest part of being a real estate advocate and guide in this modern world where we're sitting 3,000 miles away answering questions into microphones and cameras is that it feels like you can get an answer by typing a question into Jen because she's smart. Nobody in their right mind can say.
Only on TV. Only on TV. I play a smart person on TV, but in real life, maybe not so much.
Anybody who cares about you would never answer that question. There's no way anybody can answer this question yes or no. Even if mathematically I supposedly think I know the market's going to crash in a month. It doesn't matter. Someone has to take hours of time with you to figure out your emotional factors, your fiscal factors, your long-term goals, all the things that Jen was talking about. There's no way to answer that question without knowing all that. If you just want the math answer, we could figure that out. But
so here's the thing. Here's something else to consider. If it's not a good time to buy right now, that means the thousands of homes across the country that close today and tomorrow and the next month are all huge mistakes. No, they're not. The buyers that I am working with, we signed an offer today. Those buyers, actually from your neck of the woods, David, from California, they reached out to me about a year and a half ago, and they originally were from Massachusetts, and they want to have roots in Massachusetts, but it wasn't the right time. So we had conversations well over a year. A couple months would go by, and then all of a sudden, hey, conversation, jump on a Zoom. And then a couple months would go by, and this went on. And finally, it was the right time for them. And something came on the market that they were kind of watching, and new construction. So next to new construction. And it became the right time for them to do it. Period. It wasn't a time thing I'm sure it was timed for their own personal life. It was timed for their household, dynamics. But outside the household, no. That had no bearing. And could they wait? Yeah, they could wait. They're living in California, they could wait another 6 months. But it was just the right time for them to say, okay, we finally feels right. We finally feel like this is the way we want to go. We know we want to go. We've been researching it, all the things. We love this house. Let's do it. We love this place. Let's do it. So, I think that whole thing of, is now a good time to buy? Is it not a good time? Is a good time? Like David, the ads that I see on TV, like, it's a good time to sell. It's a good time to buy. All those realtor ads, they're all because the market doesn't dictate anything. People back in the crash, and I'm totally getting soapboxy here, but David, back when the market crashed in 07, right? 08, did you stop working? I didn't.
no.
Just went different. It was just different. People were short selling because they had the bottom fell of the market, and all the different indicators. We won't get into all the reasons why. I know the reasons why, but that's a whole nother conversation another day. But the market values dropped, and we had home sellers that were underwater, and they were in dire straits. They were going to lose the house, so we had to short sale. Basically means you're selling the house for less than what they owe the mortgage company. Lots of negotiations, big headache. I had one that took 18 months. From the time the buyer came to the door, we went through 3 buyers. Buyer would wait 6 months, they'd give up, they'd walk away. New buyer come along, start the process again. It was hard with foreclosures galore, but here's the thing. People still bought. It was just buying different. It was buying differently. I'm not talking like investors, like first-time home buyers were like, hey, this house needs a little bit of TLC, carpets are garbage, everything. I can do that. I can, as long as the place isn't a rat, I can do that. So they took advantage of a great opportunity, but the market doesn't stop. Leah says, back up to this previous guy. He says, I mean, where are you located? I might be your next client. I love this inner networking with the chat. Yes, let's go. Jenna English, tell me about, oh yeah. So you know, I could tell you stories about old homes, and maybe when we get to Halloween, I'll share some stories. There's some serious hauntings in Plymouth. Let me tell you something. There's some serious old houses. Let's see here. What else we got? You guys, this is awesome. Leah said, half my family is from Southwest Ohio and Western West Virginia. I am related to a cowboy named Nelson. That's awesome sauce. Let's see. This is great. This is awesome. Well, I really appreciate you guys. I think we're gonna. Joseph says, just bought new construction. We have almost 30,000 in equity before we have. David, is now a good time to buy? That is. Isn't that must make you smile ear to ear to see stuff like that.
I just,
that would just like, it's like, yes. Like
I just want people to know that where the forecasts and predictions come from. And right now, everything is based on supply and demand 101. There are not enough homes. People are going to buy. And when interest rates drop, all the people that aren't selling their homes because they have such a low interest rate, they're going to put their homes on the market. And the naysayers would be like, oh, and then that's when it's going to be too much inventory. No.
Yep.
10 offers on every home on Sunday night. It takes me 6 hours to sell a home in Southern California right now. Open house on Saturday, open house on Sunday. Supply and demand. So, hey, David, as we're coming to a close here, because tumbly is my tummy is rumbling here, because it's East Coast, man. Hey, so I really appreciate you jumping on here and sharing all your nuggets of wisdom. For those that want more nuggets, you got to check out David's podcast. He is on all the podcast stations, every single one of them. How to buy a home, millions of downloads, good stuff. Oh, you dropped a good one today. Why Zillow is a scam, mostly. I'll have to listen to that one. Yes, sir. Real good stuff. Just absolute gold on the stuff that you talk about. And I really appreciate your endeavor of trying to help people and sharing this good info. I really do. Well, that's it's the reason why when I discovered you, I went, oh my God, there's another one. Because I felt like
there's another geek weirdo. Hey, we can talk together.
But it's like we have this network that we've been growing for years and years, and it's wonderful to find people that know the very, very, very small percentage of people that actually want to help the consumer.
Amen, brother. Amen. And on that note, you guys know that there's a link in the chat, a link in the description. If you do need to be connected to an agent to sell or buy, I got to fill out that form, just request an agent referral. I'll get in touch with you in 24 hours, get the process started. And I will tell you that it is not just me going online, getting an agent and connecting you. There is some work involved on my end, but I very much want to help you. I do, because I'm all about transparency, I do get a referral fee, small referral fee, if the house that you're purchasing or selling closes. That's between me and the agent. It's no cost to you. But that is what helps me monetarily fund this channel and allows me to continue bringing you guys great content, which I very, very, very much enjoy. And I'm going to do a quick shameless plug since, this doesn't even hold a candle to David's podcast. But I know some of you guys are aware that my good friend Jackie Baker and I have a fun podcast, the Reddit Real Estate Disasters podcast. It is on all the major networks. We have threw everything up on our YouTube channel. If you want to look at our mugs while you're listening to the podcast, you can do that. And the silliness, but she finds the stories. I don't know about them until we record. She reads them, and we comment about how the silliest things get aired out on Reddit. And, it's just never ceases to amaze me that the willingness to air dirty laundry, it's hilarious sometimes. But anyhow, hey, David, thanks so much for joining us and sharing your wisdom and your knowledge and humor and all the things. I appreciate you, my friend. I really appreciate you. And all of you guys, hey, thanks for the active chat. Always love seeing all you and appreciate all you guys, chiming in with all your questions. I want to wish everybody a good week. Before I forget, next week I'm not going to be here. I'm actually going to be getting some knowledge, heading down to Texas for a conference. So I'm going to take a little break, a little sabbatical next week, but I'll see you in 2 weeks here Tuesday night, 6 p.m. Eastern. Until then, you guys all be good to each other. Be kind. Do something nice for your neighbor. Looking on your neighbor, and be patient with everyone out there. It's a very trying times for everyone, but we gotta be good to each other. Be kind to each other. So you guys have a great week. Dance it out. This is what we do, David. Good. These are good tunes, man. Somebody told me somebody said this is the pigeon dance. All right, everybody. Have a great week. Here you go.